A business trip changed everything when the billionaire broke his own rule and fell for an employee. Peterson had one unbreakable rule in 15 years of running billion-dollar companies. Never fall for an employee. Never mix business with anything personal. Never risk his empire for something as unpredictable as love. Then Debra Morgan walked into his office on December 20, 2024, and asked one simple question that changed everything. What if we just disappeared? Welcome back to CJ Stories, where we bring you emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul. If you're just joining us for the first time, you're welcome to this wonderful big family. We're so glad to have you here. Please make sure to watch till the end, and if today's story moves you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and share this video with your family and loved ones. Now, let's dive into today's story. Peterson stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 42nd floor, watching December snow fall over Charleston's historic district. At 37, he had everything he thought he wanted. Peterson Global Ventures had just closed its most profitable year. His penthouse overlooked the harbor. His calendar was full of meetings that mattered. But the office felt empty. It was December 20, 2024, 5 days before Christmas, and most of his employees had already left for the holidays. The silence pressed against him in a way it never had before. He loosened his tie and checked his watch. 6:45. Everyone should have been gone by now. The knock on his door surprised him. "Come in." Debra Morgan stepped inside carrying 2 file folders and wearing that focused expression she got when she was about to solve a problem he hadn't even identified yet. At 35, she had been his senior director of strategic development for 6 months, though she had worked for the company for nearly 2 years. She wore a burgundy dress that looked professional and elegant at the same time, her natural hair pulled back in a low bun that showed off her face. Williams noticed. He always noticed. Then he reminded himself of the rule he had never broken in 15 years of running companies. Never fall for an employee. "I thought you left already," he said. "I could say the same about you." She walked to his desk and set down the folders. "The Jakarta deal needs your signature before Monday, and I know you hate starting the week with paperwork." He almost smiled. She knew him too well. "You didn't have to stay late for that. I wanted to make sure it was done right." She met his eyes directly, the way she always did. No hesitation. No games. Just honesty. That quality had made her invaluable to him. It also made her dangerous to his carefully maintained boundaries. "Your flight to Atlanta leaves when?" he asked. "Tomorrow morning. 9:30. Something flickered across her face. "My mom's expecting me. She must be excited." "She is." Debra's voice was warm when she talked about her mother, but Williams heard something underneath. A hint of obligation mixed with love. He understood that. His own mother had called 3 times this week asking when he was coming to the family estate in Savannah. Margaret Peterson at 69 was still formidable, still expecting her only son to maintain traditions even though his father had been gone for 2 years. "What about you?" Debra asked. "Savannah? Unfortunately." She tilted her head slightly. "You say that like you're dreading it. Aren't you dreading yours?" For a moment, her professional mask slipped. He saw exhaustion there. And loneliness that matched his own. "My mom means well," she said quietly. "But every Christmas, she has a list. Things I should be doing differently. Ways I should be living my life. Last year, she invited 3 different men to Christmas dinner without telling me. 3. It was like speed dating over ham and sweet potatoes." Williams did smile then. He could picture it perfectly. Debra, composed and gracious, navigating her mother's matchmaking attempts while probably wanting to disappear. "My mother has a different approach," he said. "She invites the daughters of her friends and then strategically seats them next to me. Very subtle." "How many this year?" "She mentioned 4 names on our last call." Debra laughed. The sound filled his office in a way that made him realize how often she made him feel less alone. How many late nights they had spent working together, how many problems they had solved side by side, how many times he had caught himself watching her think through complex issues with that intensity she brought to everything. How many times he had reminded himself of his rule. "We should both run away," she said, still smiling. "Just skip Christmas entirely. Don't tempt me. I'm serious. What if we just disappeared for a week? Went somewhere neither of our mothers could find us." She was joking. He could hear it in her voice. But the idea landed in his chest like something real and possible and suddenly necessary. "Where would we go?" he asked. Debra blinked. "What? If we were going to disappear, where would you want to go?" She stared at him for 3 heartbeats. He watched her realize he wasn't joking anymore. "I don't know. Somewhere with mountains. And snow. Somewhere quiet." "Aspen," he said immediately. You have a place in Aspen? I have a cabin in Aspen. Completely private. No one knows about it except my assistant, and she's already in Vermont for the holidays. The air in the office changed. Became charged with possibility and risk. Williams. Debra's voice was careful now. Are you actually suggesting we spend Christmas together? I'm suggesting we both deserve a break from our family's expectations. I'm suggesting that we've worked harder this year than anyone else in this company. I'm suggesting that maybe we take 1 week for ourselves. Together. As colleagues, he said, even though the word felt wrong. As friends. She studied his face. He had no idea what she was looking for, but he felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with business. That's a terrible idea, she finally said. His chest tightened with disappointment he had no right to feel. Then she smiled. When do we leave? Williams felt something unlock inside him. Something that had been closed for a very long time. Tomorrow. I'll have the jet ready by noon. I need to call my mom. So do I. They stood there looking at each other, and Williams knew this was a mistake. Knew he was breaking his own rule even by suggesting this trip. Knew that spending a week alone with Debra in a remote cabin was the opposite of maintaining professional boundaries. But he was tired of boundaries. Tired of being alone in rooms that should have felt full. Tired of pretending he didn't feel something every time she walked into his office. This is just a vacation, he said, as much to himself as to her. 2 colleagues taking a break. Right, Debra agreed. But her eyes told him she didn't believe it any more than he did. She left his office with the signed documents, and Williams stood at the windows again, watching snow fall over Charleston. His phone buzzed in his pocket. His mother. He let it go to voicemail. Tomorrow, he would be on a plane to Aspen with the one woman he had spent 2 years trying not to want. The one woman who made him question every rule he had built his life around. He should cancel. Should come up with an excuse. Should protect them both from whatever this was building between them. Instead, he pulled out his phone and texted his pilot. Need the jet ready tomorrow. Noon. Destination Aspen. The response came immediately. Consider it done, sir. Williams looked at his reflection in the dark window. At 37, he had built an empire by following rules. By maintaining control. By never mixing business with anything personal. But Debra Morgan had walked into his company almost 2 years ago and changed everything without even trying. She challenged him. Matched him. Made him laugh when he forgot he knew how. Made him feel less alone in rooms full of people. Made him want to break every rule he had ever made. His phone rang again. His mother. This time he answered. Mom. Finally. Williams, I need to confirm your arrival time. Dinner is at 7 on Christmas Eve, and the Hendersons are coming with Catherine. You remember Catherine, don't you? She just finished her residency at Johns Hopkins. Williams closed his eyes. Catherine would be smart and accomplished and perfectly suitable. She would also bore him to death within an hour. Actually, Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm not coming to Savannah this year. Silence. Then, excuse me? I'm taking a trip. I need some time to myself. Time to yourself? Williams, it's Christmas. Family is supposed to be together at Christmas. I know. And I'm sorry. But I need this. His mother's voice sharpened. Is this about work? Because you work too much as it is. Your father would want you to slow down, spend time with people who care about you. Williams gripped the phone tighter. His father had died suddenly 2 years ago, right before Christmas. A heart attack in his study while reviewing quarterly reports. Williams had found him there, still holding a pen. That loss had changed him in ways he was still discovering. This isn't about Dad, he said quietly. It's about me needing a break. Another pause. When his mother spoke again, her voice was softer. Are you all right, sweetheart? I am. I promise. I just need some quiet. You're going alone? The lie formed on his tongue easily. But Williams found he didn't want to lie. Not about this. No. I'm going with a colleague. A colleague. His mother's tone shifted immediately. A female colleague? Mom. Is this serious? It's a vacation. That's all. Williams Peterson, you haven't taken a vacation with a woman since Claire, and that was 5 years ago. 6 years, actually. But he didn't correct her. I'll call you on Christmas, he said. I promise. His mother sighed. Be careful, sweetheart. I know you think you have everything figured out, but the heart doesn't follow rules the way businesses do. After they hung up, Williams stood in the quiet office and wondered if his mother was right. If he was about to make the biggest mistake of his carefully controlled life. His phone buzzed with a text. Debra, my mom thinks I've lost my mind. She also asked if you're single. Should I be worried? Williams smiled. Williams, my mom asked if this was serious. I told her it was just a vacation. Debra, is it? He stared at those two words for a long time. The honest answer was no. The safe answer was yes. Williams, we leave at noon. Pack for snow. Debra, that's not an answer. Williams, I know. He left the office at 7:30, walked to his car in the empty parking garage, and drove to his penthouse overlooking Charleston Harbor. The Christmas lights along the waterfront reflected on the dark water. Couples walked hand in hand through the historic district. The city felt alive with holiday joy that he was usually too busy to notice. Tomorrow, he would break the most important rule he had ever made. Tomorrow, he would spend a week alone with Debra Morgan in the mountains, pretending they were just colleagues when they both knew it was a lie. Tomorrow, everything would change. Williams packed his bags and tried not to think about what he was really doing. Tried not to acknowledge that he had been half in love with Debra since the day she walked into his office with a proposal that was smarter than anything his senior team had suggested. Tried not to admit that every late night, every shared laugh, every moment of comfortable silence had been building to this. He had one rule: never fall for an employee. But maybe some rules were meant to be broken. Across town, Debra sat in her apartment staring at an empty suitcase. At 35, she had convinced herself she was too smart to fall for her boss. Too focused on her career to risk everything for feelings that probably weren't mutual. Too experienced to believe in the kind of chemistry that made smart women do foolish things. But Williams Peterson had looked at her tonight like she was the only person in the world who understood him. And when he suggested Aspen, she had seen something in his eyes that made her forget every reason this was a bad idea. She pulled clothes from her closet. Sweaters. Jeans. A dress, just in case. She told herself this was just a vacation. Just two colleagues who worked too hard taking a break together. But her hands were shaking as she packed. Her phone rang. Her mom. "Baby, are you sure about this?" "I'm sure, Mama. You've been working for this man for 2 years and never mentioned him before. Now suddenly you're spending Christmas together? It's not like that." "Then what's it like?" Debra closed her eyes. "I don't know yet." Her mother was quiet for a moment. "Then, do you trust him?" "Yes." "Do you like him?" "More than I should," Debra thought. "He's a good man, Mama." "That's not what I asked." Debra sat on her bed surrounded by half-packed clothes and let herself be honest. "I like him. I've liked him for a long time. But he has this rule about not dating employees, and I've respected that. This trip is just a break. Nothing more. Baby, men don't invite women to spend Christmas with them if it's nothing more. Williams is different. He's careful. Controlled. Maybe he's tired of being controlled." After they hung up, Debra finished packing. She included the deep green sweater that made her skin glow, the jeans that fit perfectly, and the simple black dress that could be casual or elegant depending on how she wore it. Just in case. At 11 that night, she lay in bed unable to sleep. Tomorrow, she would get on a private jet with Williams Peterson. Tomorrow, she would spend a week alone with the man she had been trying not to fall for since the day they met. Tomorrow, she would find out if the connection she felt was real or just wishful thinking from too many late nights working side by side. Her phone lit up with a text. "Williams, can't sleep either?" Debra smiled in the darkness. "Debra, nervous?" Williams, terrified. "Debra, we can still cancel." Williams, "Do you want to?" She thought about Christmas with her mother's matchmaking attempts. About pretending to be happy while feeling hollow inside. About another year of being alone in a room full of people who loved her but didn't understand her. Then she thought about Williams. About the way he listened when she talked. About how he valued her opinion. About the safety she felt in his presence and the excitement that came with every conversation. "Debra, no. I don't want to cancel." Williams, "Good. Because I already told my pilot to fuel the jet." "Debra, no turning back now." Williams, "Are you scared?" She was. But not of the trip. Not of the cabin or the mountains or even spending a week alone with him. She was scared of how much she wanted this. How much she wanted him. "Debra, a little." "You?" Williams, "More than a little." "Debra, we're both idiots, aren't we?" Williams, "Probably." "See you at noon, Debra." "Debra, see you at noon, Williams." She set her phone down and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere across Charleston, Williams was probably doing the same thing. Both of them awake. Both of them nervous. Both of them about to cross a line they couldn't uncross. Tomorrow, everything would change. And for the first time in years, Debra couldn't wait. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. The private jet lifted off from Charleston Executive Airport at 12:15 on December 21, 2024. Debra sat in the cream leather seat across from Williams, watching the city shrink below them. Her heart hadn't stopped racing since she walked into the private terminal and saw him waiting. He wore jeans and a charcoal sweater instead of his usual suit. The casual look made him seem younger, more approachable. More dangerous to her carefully maintained professional distance. "Comfortable?" he asked. "This is nicer than my apartment." Williams smiled. "Wait until you see the cabin." The flight attendant brought champagne and disappeared into the forward cabin, leaving them alone. Debra took a sip and felt the bubbles settle her nerves slightly. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," she said. "Having second thoughts?" "Third and fourth thoughts." "You?" "About a dozen." He leaned back in his seat, studying her with those blue eyes that always seemed to see more than she wanted to reveal. "But I'm tired of doing what I'm supposed to do," said the billionaire on his private jet. "Money doesn't buy freedom from expectations. Sometimes I think it makes them worse." Debra understood that more than he knew. She had worked twice as hard as everyone else her entire career, proving herself at every level. The pressure to be perfect, to never stumble, to represent excellence at all times because people were watching, waiting for her to confirm their biases or shatter their assumptions. "What did your mom say?" she asked. "After you told her?" "She thinks I'm making a mistake. She also asked if you were the reason I've turned down every setup she's attempted in the past year." Debra's pulse quickened. "Are you?" Williams met her eyes. "Yes." The single word landed between them like a confession. Debra felt her breath catch. "Williams. I know. I have a rule. Never fall for an employee. I've had that rule for 15 years, and I've never broken it." But you walked into my office 2 years ago and I haven't been the same since." Debra set down her champagne glass carefully, afraid her hands would shake. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you work for me. Because it wouldn't be fair to put you in that position. Because I thought I could control it." "Can you?" He looked at her for a long moment. "No. I don't think I can." The jet hit turbulence, but Debra barely noticed. All she could focus on was Williams, on the vulnerability in his eyes, on the fact that he had just admitted what she had been feeling for months. "I've tried not to feel this way," she said quietly. "I've told myself 1,000 times that it's just proximity. Just respect for your mind. Just admiration for what you've built. But then you smile at something I say, or you bring me coffee the way I like it without asking, or you defend my ideas in meetings when other people dismiss them, and I forget all the reasons this is a bad idea." Debra. Her name on his lips sounded different than it ever had before. Softer. More intimate. "We worked together," she reminded him. Reminded herself. "I know. This could complicate everything. I know that too. Then why are we doing this?" William stood and crossed to her seat. He knelt in front of her, bringing their eyes level. This close, she could see the silver starting at his temples, the fine lines around his eyes, the hint of stubble on his jaw. "Because I'm tired of pretending," he said. "I'm tired of sitting across from you in meetings and acting like you're just another employee. I'm tired of working late with you and keeping conversation professional when all I want is to know everything about you. I'm tired of being careful." Debra's hand moved before she could think, reaching up to touch his face. His skin was warm beneath her fingers. He closed his eyes briefly, leaning into her touch. "What happens when we get back to Charleston?" she whispered. "I don't know. What happens to my job?" "Nothing. I would never let this affect your career. If you want to transfer to a different division, I'll make it happen. If you want to stay where you are, we'll figure out the disclosure policies. If you decide this is a mistake and you want to pretend it never happened, I'll respect that. And if I want to see where this goes?" Williams opened his eyes. "Then we see where it goes." The jet leveled out. Through the windows, Debra could see clouds stretching endlessly white beneath them. "I'm scared," she admitted. "So am I. I don't want to lose what we have. Even if it's just professional respect and late-night brainstorming sessions, I don't want to lose you from my life." "You won't. Whatever happens, Debra, you won't lose me." She believed him. That was the terrifying part. She believed every word. "We should take this slow," she said. "Agreed. We should use this week to figure out what we're actually feeling." "Makes sense. We should be smart about this." "Absolutely." Neither of them moved. Williams was still kneeling in front of her, her hands still on his face, their eyes locked. "We're not going to be smart about this, are we?" Debra asked. Williams smiled. "Probably not." The flight attendant's voice came over the intercom, announcing their descent into Aspen in 90 minutes. Williams returned to his seat, but something had shifted between them. The pretense was gone. The careful distance had collapsed. They talked for the rest of the flight. Not about work. About everything else. Williams told her about growing up as an only child in Savannah, about the pressure of being a Peterson, about losing his father and feeling like he had inherited not just a legacy but an obligation to be someone he wasn't sure he wanted to be. Debra told him about Atlanta, about her mother's fierce love and equally fierce opinions, about working her way through business school, about the ex-boyfriend who left when her career started outpacing his. He said I intimidated him, she said. That I made him feel small. He was small. That's not your fault. My mom thinks I'm too picky, too focused on work. She worries I'll wake up one day and realize I'm alone. Are you? Too focused on work? Debra thought about the question honestly. Maybe. But I love what I do. I love solving problems. I love building strategies. I love the challenge. I know. I see it every day. It's one of the things I admire most about you. What else do you admire? The question came out more flirtatious than she intended. Williams's eyes darkened slightly. Your intelligence. Your integrity. The way you stand up for what you believe in. Your laugh. The way you think through problems. Your compassion. Your strength. That's a long list. I could keep going. The plane descended through clouds. Debra's ears popped as pressure changed. When they broke through into clear air, the Rocky Mountains rose before them, peaks white with snow against impossible blue sky. It's beautiful, she breathed. Wait until you see the cabin. They landed at Aspen Pitkin County Airport just after 3 local time. A black SUV waited on the tarmac. The driver loaded their bags while Williams helped Debra into the passenger seat. The drive took 40 minutes, climbing into the mountains on roads that wound through pine forests heavy with snow. They passed the main town of Aspen, continued into more remote areas, finally turning onto a private drive marked only by a carved wooden post. The cabin appeared through the trees like something from a dream. It wasn't a cabin. It was a masterpiece of wood and stone and glass, built into the mountainside with views that stretched for miles. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the afternoon sun. Smoke curled from a stone chimney. A wide deck wrapped around the front, already cleared of snow. Williams, Debra whispered. This is incredible. My father bought the land 20 years ago. I built the house 5 years ago, right after he had his first health scare. He never got to see it finished. She heard the grief underneath his words. I'm sorry. He would have loved it. He always talked about having a place where the family could escape. Somewhere private. Somewhere peaceful. They got out of the SUV. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe, sharp and clean and scented with pine. Debra's boots crunched on snow as she walked to the deck railing and looked out at the view. Mountains rose in every direction. The valley below held a frozen lake that gleamed like a mirror. The sky was so blue it seemed unreal. I've never seen anything like this, she said. Williams came to stand beside her. Close enough that she could feel his warmth. Neither have I. Not really. I've been here maybe 3 times since it was finished. Always alone. Always for work. That's sad. I know. I keep meaning to use it properly. Keep meaning to invite friends or family. But I never do. Why not? He was quiet for a moment. Because it felt like it was waiting for something. Someone. I didn't know who until now. Debra turned to look at him. His profile was strong against the mountains, his expression open in a way she rarely saw at the office. Williams Peterson, she said softly. Are you a romantic? I think I might be. With the right person. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. We should go inside before we freeze. The interior was even more stunning than the exterior. Vaulted ceilings with exposed beams. A stone fireplace that dominated one wall. Leather furniture arranged to take advantage of the views. A kitchen with top-of-the-line appliances. Artwork that looked original and expensive. And everywhere, windows. Light poured in from every angle. There are 4 bedrooms upstairs, Williams said. Take whichever one you want. The master has the best view, but they're all comfortable. Where will you sleep? Wherever you don't choose. Debra climbed the stairs with her bag. The master bedroom faced west, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the mountains. The bed was enormous, covered in white linens. A fireplace sat in one corner. The bathroom had a soaking tub with views of the forest. She should take one of the other rooms. Should maintain some distance. Should be sensible. She dropped her bag in the master bedroom and didn't let herself second-guess it. When she came back downstairs, Williams had started a fire and opened a bottle of wine. He handed her a glass and they stood at the windows watching the sun start its descent toward the peaks. What do we do now? Debra asked. Whatever we want. That's a dangerous answer. I know. She sipped her wine and let herself feel the moment. The warmth of the fire. The beauty of the mountains. The presence of the man beside her. All the fear and uncertainty and what-ifs faded into background noise. Thank you, she said. For inviting me. For this. Williams turned to face her fully. Thank you for saying yes. For trusting me. I do trust you. That's what makes this so scary. I know exactly what you mean. The sun touched the mountain peaks, turning the snow pink and gold. Debra watched the light change and felt something shift inside her. Some decision she hadn't known she needed to make settling into place. This week, she would let herself feel. This week, she would stop being careful. This week, she would see what happened when she stopped running from what she wanted. And what she wanted was standing right beside her, watching the sunset, close enough to touch. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. 3 days into their stay, on December 24, 2024, Debra woke to find 6 inches of fresh snow had fallen overnight. The world outside looked like a painting, everything soft and white and impossibly beautiful. She pulled on leggings and an oversized sweater, padding downstairs to find Williams already in the kitchen. "Morning," he said, looking up from the coffee maker. His hair was slightly messy, his feet bare, and he wore faded jeans and a Henley that made him look nothing like the billionaire CEO and everything like a man she could build a life with. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt inevitable. Morning. She accepted the coffee he handed her, their fingers brushing. Even that small touch sent warmth through her body. The past 3 days had been perfect. Too perfect. They had cooked together, talked for hours by the fire, walked through snow-covered forests, watched old movies on the massive television. Williams had shown her how to build a proper fire. She had taught him to make her grandmother's hot chocolate recipe. They had laughed until their sides hurt. They had sat in comfortable silence reading books. And they had been careful. So careful. No matter how much Debra wanted to close the distance between them, no matter how many times she caught Williams watching her with heat in his eyes, they had maintained the boundaries they had agreed on. Taking things slow. Figuring out their feelings. Being smart. But Debra was tired of being smart. "I was thinking we could drive into town today," Williams said. "There's a Christmas Eve service at a small church I've driven past a few times. And the town should be beautiful with all the decorations." "That sounds perfect." They took their coffee to the windows. The sun was rising over the eastern peaks, turning everything gold. "My mom called this morning," Williams said quietly. "While you were still asleep." "How is she?" "Disappointed. But she'll forgive me eventually." He paused. "She asked about you again." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you're brilliant and beautiful and you make me happier than I've been in years." Debra's breath caught. "Williams. I know we said we'd take this slow. I know we agreed to use this week to figure things out. But Debra, I already know. I've known for months. Maybe since the day we met." She set down her coffee cup with trembling hands. "What do you know?" "That I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, huge and undeniable. Debra felt tears prick her eyes. "You can't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes this real. It makes going back to normal impossible." "Good. I don't want normal. I want you." He crossed to where she stood and took her face in his hands. His touch was gentle, reverent. His eyes searched hers. "Tell me you don't feel the same," he said softly. "Tell me these 3 days have been just a vacation to you. Tell me I'm alone in this." "You're not alone," she whispered. "You've never been alone in this." William smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. Then he lowered his mouth to hers. The kiss was everything Debra had imagined and nothing like she expected. Soft at first, tentative, asking permission. She gave it by pressing closer, wrapping her arms around his neck. The kiss deepened, became more urgent. His hands moved to her waist, pulling her against him. She felt the hard planes of his chest, the rapid beat of his heart that matched her own. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Williams rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for 2 years," he said. "Worth the wait?" "Absolutely." Debra laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Years, maybe." She tilted her face up for another kiss, and Williams obliged happily. They spent the morning tangled together on the couch, talking and kissing and simply being close. All the careful distance of the past 3 days dissolved. Williams told her about his first business failure at 25, about the fear that he wasn't good enough to live up to his family name. Debra told him about her first day at Peterson Global Ventures, how terrified she had been walking into that interview, how sure she was that she would blow her chance. "You walked in like you owned the place," Williams said. "Confident and prepared. I knew within 5 minutes I had to hire you. I threw up in the bathroom before the interview." "What?" "Nerves. I wanted the job so badly, and I was so scared I'd mess it up." Williams pulled her closer. "You've never messed up anything. You're the best decision I've ever made." Business-wise. Every wise. They drove into Aspen just after noon. The town was transformed for Christmas, every building draped in lights and garland. A massive tree stood in the center square. Carolers sang on street corners. Children threw snowballs in parks. Couples walked hand in hand down snowy sidewalks. Williams reached for Debra's hand as they walked. She laced her fingers through his and felt something inside her settle. This was right. They were right. They browsed through boutiques, sharing hot cider from a street vendor, laughing at inside jokes that had formed over 3 days of constant companionship. Williams bought her a pair of handmade earrings from a local artist. Debra insisted on buying him a leather-bound journal she saw him admiring. "What would I write in this?" he asked. "Whatever you want. Dreams. Plans. Love letters." His eyes heated. Love letters? If you had someone to write them to. Ido. They attended the Christmas Eve service at a small stone church on the edge of town. The sanctuary was warm and candlelit, filled with locals and tourists alike. They sat in a back pew, Williams's arm around Debra's shoulders. When the congregation sang Silent Night, she felt tears on her cheeks. Everything felt perfect. Too perfect. They drove back to the cabin as the sun set. Williams made dinner while Debra set the table, moving around each other in the kitchen with an ease that felt domestic and natural. They ate by firelight, talking about everything and nothing. "I don't want this week to end," Debra said. "It doesn't have to. When we get back to Charleston, we can figure this out." "How?" "I work for you, Williams. That doesn't change just because we spent Christmas together. So we'll make it work. You can transfer to a different division, or I can recuse myself from your direct supervision. We'll follow every HR protocol. We'll be transparent. People will talk. Let them. It could affect my credibility. People might think I slept my way to my position." Williams's jaw tightened. "Anyone who thinks that doesn't know you. And doesn't deserve to work for this company. You can't fire everyone who has an opinion. Watch me." Despite everything, Debra smiled. "My fierce protector. Always." His phone rang, shattering the moment. Williams glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's my VP of operations. I should take this." On Christmas Eve? He wouldn't call unless it was important. Williams answered the call and walked toward his office. Debra cleared the dinner plates, listening to the murmur of his voice from the other room. The tone shifted quickly from casual to tense. When he emerged 15 minutes later, his expression was grim. "What's wrong?" "The Jakarta deal is falling apart. Their board got cold feet. They're threatening to pull out entirely." Debra's strategic mind immediately engaged. "What changed?" "Apparently there's been a leak. Someone told them about our expansion plans for Southeast Asia before we were ready to disclose. Now they think we're trying to undercut them." "Who would leak that information?" "I don't know. But I need to get back to Charleston. Tonight." The words hit Debra like cold water. "Tonight? I'm sorry. I know we said we had until the 30th, but this deal represents 18 months of work. If it collapses, we lose our foothold in the Asian market." "I understand." Williams crossed to her, taking her hands. "Come with me. We'll fly back together, I'll handle the emergency, and we can still spend the rest of the holidays together." "Williams, you'll be working around the clock. You won't have time for anything else. Then stay here. Use the cabin. Take the rest of the week." "Alone?" "I'll come back as soon as I can. 2 days, maybe 3. Debra pulled her hands free. Reality was crashing back in, cold and harsh. "This is what it would be like, isn't it? This is our future. You running off to handle emergencies while I wait around hoping for scraps of your time. That's not fair. Isn't it? You're a billionaire CEO, Williams. Your company will always come first. It has to. I understand that, I do. But where does that leave me? It leaves you as my partner. The woman I love. The person I want to build a life with. A life that gets interrupted every time your phone rings." Williams's expression hardened. "You're being unreasonable. I'm being realistic. We've been living in a fantasy for 3 days. But reality is you have responsibilities that don't disappear just because we want them to." "So what are you saying? That this was all a mistake?" "I'm saying I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can be with someone whose work will always take priority over everything else." "That's rich coming from you. You're the one who stays late every night. Who answers emails at midnight? Who works weekends? That's different." "How?" "Because I don't have someone waiting for me at home." The words landed like a slap. William stepped back, his face closing off. "I see. So as long as you're alone, working nonstop is admirable. But if I do it, I'm neglecting you." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Debra?" "Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you're looking for an excuse to run." Maybe I am. Maybe I'm realizing that no matter how much we want this to work, the reality is too complicated. Nothing worth having is simple. And nothing built on impossible circumstances lasts. Williams stared at her for a long moment. Debra saw hurt flash across his face, quickly masked by the cool control he wore like armor at the office. I need to pack, he said quietly. The jet will be ready in an hour. Do you want to come back with me or stay here? I'll stay. Fine. He turned and walked upstairs. Debra stood alone in the beautiful cabin, by the fire they had built together, surrounded by the evidence of 3 perfect days that had just shattered like glass. She heard him moving around upstairs. Heard the shower running. Heard his voice on the phone making arrangements. Each sound felt like another nail in the coffin of what they could have been. When he came back downstairs 40 minutes later, he was dressed in a suit. The transformation was complete. This wasn't the man who had kissed her this morning. This was Williams Peterson, CEO, billionaire, untouchable. The car will be here in 10 minutes, he said. Okay. There's plenty of food. The house manager can bring anything else you need. Stay as long as you want. Thank you. They stood on opposite sides of the living room, miles apart despite being just feet away from each other. Debra. His voice cracked slightly. I love you. That hasn't changed just because we had our first fight. I know. Do you love me? She closed her eyes against tears. Yes. But I don't know if love is enough. It has to be enough. Why? Because I've spent 37 years building walls around my heart, and you're the only person who's ever made me want to tear them down. Because these 3 days have been the happiest of my life. Because when I imagine my future, all I see is you. A car horn sounded outside. Williams picked up his bag. He crossed to where Debra stood and kissed her forehead gently. I'll call you when I land. We'll figure this out. Then he was gone. The door closed behind him. The sound of the car faded down the mountain. Debra stood in the silent cabin and let herself cry. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. How's paradise, baby? Said Mom. Debra looked around the empty cabin. At the fire dying in the hearth. At the half-empty wine glasses on the table. At the future she had just pushed away because she was too scared to fight for it. I think I just made the biggest mistake of my life, Debra said as she is a little frightened. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. Debra woke on Christmas morning, December 25, 2024, to an empty cabin and a silence so profound it hurt. She was 35 years old, alone in the mountains, and she had never felt more lost. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Williams and 2 text messages. Williams, landed safely. Meeting with the Jakarta team in an hour. Williams, Merry Christmas, Debra. I wish you were here. She stared at the messages for 10 minutes before responding. Debra, Merry Christmas. Good luck with the meeting. Professional. Distant. Safe. Everything she had promised herself she wouldn't be with him. The cabin felt haunted by the past 3 days. Everywhere she looked, she saw evidence of what they had built together. The blanket they had shared on the couch. The coffee mug still sitting by the sink. The book Williams had been reading, marked with a receipt from the boutique where he had bought her earrings. She made coffee and stood at the windows watching snow fall. Her mother called at 9. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, Mama. You sound terrible. I'm fine. Debra Lynn Morgan, don't lie to your mother. What happened? So Debra told her. About the 3 perfect days. About falling in love. About Williams having to leave for a business emergency. About the fight. About pushing him away because she was terrified. Her mother listened without interrupting. When Debra finished, there was a long pause. Baby, do you remember what I told you after Marcus left? Marcus. Her ex-boyfriend who had ended things 3 years ago because her success made him feel inadequate. The man who had chosen his ego over loving her. You told me that the right man wouldn't be intimidated by my strength. And what else? That I deserved someone who celebrated my ambition instead of resenting it. Williams doesn't resent your ambition, does he? No. He's the one who promoted me. Who values my opinion. Who treats me like an equal. So what's really going on here? Because from what you've told me, this man flew you to Aspen, spent 3 days showing you who he really is, told you he loves you, and then had to handle a business emergency. That doesn't sound like a man who doesn't care. He left, Mama. He went to do his job. That's different than leaving you. Debra sank onto the couch. What if this is always how it is? What if I'm always second to his company? What if you're not? What if you're being so scared of getting hurt that you're creating problems that don't exist? You don't understand. I understand plenty. I understand that you've been protecting yourself since Marcus. That you've thrown yourself into work because it's safer than risking your heart. That you've convinced yourself you don't need anyone because needing people means they can hurt you. Debra felt tears slide down her cheeks. I'm scared. Of course you are. Love is terrifying. But baby, being alone is worse. Trust me. I spent 5 years after your father died telling myself I was fine on my own. And I was fine. But fine isn't the same as happy. After they hung up, Debra sat in the quiet cabin and forced herself to think honestly. Williams had left to handle an emergency. A crisis that could destroy months of work and affect hundreds of employees. He had asked her to come with him. Had promised to return as soon as possible. Had told her he loved her. And she had accused him of not making her a priority. She had done exactly what she accused him of doing. She had put up walls the moment things got difficult. She had run at the first sign of complication. She had been unfair. Her phone rang. Williams. She answered on the second ring. His voice sounded exhausted. How are you? Miserable. You? Same. The meeting went well, though. I think we salvaged the deal. That's good. Silence stretched between them. Debra could hear voices in the background on his end. Could picture him in his office, surrounded by people, handling crisis after crisis. Williams, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said. You weren't wrong. My work does consume me. It always has. But that doesn't mean you don't care about other things. About me. Debra, I need to tell you something. After you said you didn't know if you could do this, I spent the entire flight back to Charleston thinking. And I realized you were right to be worried. Her stomach dropped. What? Not about me not caring. But about the life I lead. The demands on my time. The constant emergencies. You deserve someone who can be present. Who can give you the attention you need. Don't do this. I'm trying to be realistic. No, you're trying to protect yourself. You're doing exactly what I did. You're running because it's easier than fighting. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I need you to be honest about what you want. Williams was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. I want you. I want to come home to you every night. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to build a life that isn't just about work and obligations. I want everything, Debra. But I don't know if I can give you what you deserve. What do I deserve? Someone who puts you first. Always. Williams, you're a CEO. Your company employs over 3,000 people. I would never expect you to put me ahead of all of them. But I need to know that I matter. That we matter. You do. God, Debra, you matter more than anything. Then prove it. Not by abandoning your responsibilities. But by making space for me in your life. How? I don't know yet. But we figure it out together. That's what partners do. She heard him take a shaky breath. I'm in love with you. Completely. Terrifyingly in love with you. I'm in love with you too. And I'm sorry I panicked. I'm sorry I had to leave. When can you come back? Tomorrow. I have one more meeting in the morning, and then I'm done. I'll be on a plane by noon. Relief flooded through her. I'll be here. Debra? Don't give up on us. Please. I won't. I promise. After they hung up, Debra walked through the cabin with new eyes. This wasn't a monument to what they had lost. It was the foundation of what they were building. She built a fire. Made hot chocolate using her grandmother's recipe. Curled up on the couch with the blanket that still smelled like Williams's cologne. Her phone buzzed with a text. Williams, I found the leak. It was someone in legal who thought they were helping by giving Jakarta more information. They've been let go. Debra, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Williams, comes with the territory. But I'm implementing new protocols. And I'm hiring a new COO to share some of the operational burden. Debra, really? Williams, really? I meant what I said about making space for you in my life. That starts with delegating more at work. Debra, you don't have to change everything for me. Williams, I'm not changing for you. I'm changing for us. There's a difference. She smiled through tears. Debra, I love you. Williams, I love you too. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start figuring out our future. Debra spent Christmas Day alone but not lonely. She video called her mother and promised to visit in January. She read by the fire. She took a long bath in the massive tub overlooking the mountains. She let herself imagine a future where she and Williams made this work. A future where love was enough because they chose to make it enough. That evening, she stood at the windows watching the sun set over the peaks. Her phone rang. Williams again. Couldn't wait until tomorrow, she asked, smiling. I'm looking at flights. There's one that leaves in 2 hours. I could be there by midnight. Tonight? I don't want to spend another night away from you. Not if I don't have to. Debra's heart swelled. Then come home. Home? To me. Come home to me, Williams. She heard the smile in his voice. I'll see you soon. Debra rushed around the cabin, changing into the green sweater Williams loved, brushing her hair, putting on the earrings he had bought her in town. She felt like a teenager preparing for prom. Giddy and nervous and full of hope. At 11:30, she heard the car in the driveway. She met him at the door. Williams stood on the threshold covered in snow, still wearing his suit, looking exhausted and beautiful and hers. Hi, he said. I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I let you. He dropped his bag and pulled her into his arms. The kiss was desperate and tender and full of everything they had almost lost. When they finally broke apart, Williams rested his forehead against hers. I hired a search firm today. For a COO. Someone I trust to handle the day-to-day operation so I can focus on strategy. And on us. Williams, that's huge. You're huge. You're everything. And I'm done pretending work is enough to fill my life when it's not. What is enough? This. You. Us. Building something that matters outside of conference rooms and quarterly reports. Debra took his hand and led him inside. They sat by the fire, tangled together on the couch, talking until the early hours of December 26, 2024. They talked about logistics. About how to handle their relationship at work. About disclosure policies and potential transfers and what it would mean for Debra's career. About boundaries between professional and personal. About the future they wanted to build. I don't want to leave strategic development, Debra said. I love what I do. Then we make it work. We disclose the relationship to HR. We set clear boundaries at the office. We're professional during business hours and partners after. People will talk. Let them. Anyone who knows you earned your position. And if they don't believe that? Then they answer to me. Debra smiled. Still my fierce protector. Always. They fell asleep on the couch as dawn broke over the mountains. When Debra woke a few hours later, Williams was watching her with soft eyes. What are you thinking? She asked. That I've never been this happy. That I almost lost this because I was too scared to believe I could have it. That I'm not letting fear win ever again. Good. Because neither am I. He kissed her slowly, thoroughly. What do you want to do today? Stay right here. With you. Figure out the rest as we go. Sounds perfect. And it was. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul, and share your thoughts in the comments to tell us which story you want to hear next. Now let us continue. The next 4 days passed in a blur of connection and joy. Williams and Debra spent their time cooking together, hiking through snow-covered trails, talking for hours about everything and nothing. They video-called their mothers together on December 27, 2024, officially introducing each other as partners rather than colleagues. Margaret Peterson had been cautiously optimistic. Linda Morgan had been thrilled. It's about time my daughter found someone worthy of her, Linda had said, making William smile and Debra blush. But beneath the happiness, Debra felt a growing anxiety. Their week was ending. On December 30th, they would return to Charleston and face the reality of their situation. The policies. The disclosures. The inevitable gossip. The question of whether what they had built in the mountains could survive in the real world. On the morning of December 29th, Williams woke her early. Get dressed, he said. Warm clothes. We're going somewhere. Where? It's a surprise. They drove higher into the mountains, eventually parking at a trailhead Debra didn't recognize. Williams pulled a backpack from the SUV and took her hand. Trust me? Always. The hike took 40 minutes, climbing through pine forests and over rocky terrain. The air was thin and cold, but the sky was brilliantly blue. When they finally emerged from the trees, Debra gasped. They stood on a ridge overlooking a valley so beautiful it seemed impossible. Mountains surrounded them on all sides. A frozen waterfall cascaded down granite cliffs. The morning sun turned everything golden, pink and orange. Williams, this is incredible. I've been coming here since I built the cabin. It's where I come when I need to think. To make important decisions. He turned to face her. I wanted to share it with you. Thank you for bringing me here. Debra, these past 10 days have changed my life. You've changed my life. And I know we're going back to Charleston tomorrow and everything is going to get complicated. The office politics, the disclosure requirements, the questions and opinions and judgments. I know. But none of that matters to me. What matters is this. Us. What we've built together. Debra felt her heart start to race. Williams, what are you saying? He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Debra's breath caught. I'm saying that I don't want to date you in secret. I don't want to navigate HR policies and worry about appearances. I don't want to waste time being careful when life is too short for careful. He dropped to one knee in the snow. Debra Morgan, I am completely and hopelessly in love with you. You challenge me. You inspire me. You make me laugh. You make me want to be a better man. You make me believe in futures I stopped dreaming about years ago. Tears streamed down Debra's face. Williams. I know this is fast. I know we've only had 10 days together like this. But I've known you for 2 years. I've worked beside you, watched you handle crises with grace, seen you fight for what you believe in. I've been falling in love with you since the day we met, and I'm done pretending otherwise. He opened the box. Inside was a ring that took her breath away. A single diamond, emerald cut, set in platinum. Simple. Elegant. Perfect. Marry me. Not someday. Not when it's convenient or when we've figured everything out. Marry me because life is uncertain and time is precious and I don't want to spend another day without you being mine completely. Debra stared at him, this man who had opened his heart to her, who had changed his entire life to make room for her, who was kneeling in the snow on a mountain asking her to build a future with him. What about work? She whispered. We'll figure it out. You can transfer divisions if you want. You can stay where you are and we'll navigate the policies together. You can leave the company entirely and start your own consulting firm and I'll be your first client. I don't care, Debra. As long as we're together, I don't care. People will say I'm only marrying you for your money. People who know you will know better. And people who don't know you don't matter. Your mother might think this is too fast. My mother already loves you. I called her last night and told her what I was planning. She said it's about time I stopped being sensible and started being happy. Debra laughed through tears. You told your mother before you asked me? I wanted her blessing. She gave it enthusiastically. What about my mom? Williams smiled. I called her too. She said, and I quote, that man better treat my baby right or he'll answer to me. You called my mama? I wanted to do this properly. To honor you and your family. Debra looked at this man, this brilliant, driven, successful man who had humbled himself to ask for her hand. Who had planned this moment with care and respect. Who loved her enough to risk everything. Yes, she said. Williams blinked. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I want to build a life with you. Yes to all of it. He stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that made her forget the cold, forget the altitude, forget everything except the feel of him holding her like she was precious. When they finally broke apart, he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. How did you know my size? I asked your mother. She's had this information ready for years, apparently. She was very excited when I called. Debra laughed and cried and kissed him again. They stood on the ridge holding each other as the sun climbed higher, warming the frozen world around them. When? She asked. When do you want to get married? As soon as possible. Tomorrow if you want. Williams, we can't get married tomorrow. Why not? Because my mother would kill me if she missed it. Because we need to plan something, even if it's small. Because I want to do this right. He tucked a curl behind her ear. What does right look like to you? Small? Intimate? Just family and close friends. Maybe on the beach in Charleston. Sunset. Simple and beautiful. That sounds perfect. When? February? That gives us time to plan but doesn't feel too far away. February 14th, Williams said immediately. Valentine's Day. That's so cheesy. I don't care. I want everyone to know I'm a man who's hopelessly in love with his wife. Wife. The word settled over Debra like a blessing. They hiked back down the mountain hand in hand. When they reached the cabin, Williams pulled out his phone. I'm calling my attorney. We need a prenup drafted. Debra stopped. What? A prenuptial agreement. To protect you. Don't you mean to protect you? No. I mean to protect you. I want it stipulated that no matter what happens, you walk away with security. That your career and your future are safeguarded. That if I ever do anything to hurt you, you're taken care of. Williams, I don't want your money. I know. That's why you're getting it anyway. He pulled her close. Debra, I'm a billionaire. That comes with complications. With people who might question your motives. I want legal documentation that proves you didn't marry me for financial gain. That you're protected and valued and secure. You really thought this through. I've been thinking about it for months. Since long before I asked you to come to Aspen. She kissed him softly. Okay. If it's important to you. It is. And I'm putting a clause in there that if we divorce, you get half of everything. Williams, that's not necessary. It is to me. You're going to be my partner in every sense of the word. That includes financially. They spent the rest of the day making calls. To Williams's attorney about the prenup. To a wedding planner in Charleston about availability in February. To their mothers with the news. Linda Morgan cried happy tears. Margaret Peterson welcomed Debra to the family with genuine warmth. That evening, they sat by the fire one last time. "Tomorrow we go back," Debra said. "Face the real world." "Are you worried?" "A little. Once we announce our engagement, everything changes at the office." Williams took her hand, the one wearing his ring. "I've been thinking about that. What if you didn't work for Peterson Global anymore?" Debra's stomach dropped. "Are you firing me?" "God, no. I'm suggesting you start your own firm. Morgan Strategic Consulting. You'd be independent, free to take on any clients you want. Including us, if you choose. But you'd be your own boss. Build your own legacy." Williams, starting a consulting firm takes capital. Infrastructure. Client. "I'll provide the initial investment as a business loan with extremely favorable terms. You can use office space in our building until you find your own. And I'll personally recommend you to every CEO I know, which should give you a solid client base immediately." "Why would you do that?" "Because you're brilliant and you deserve to build something that's entirely yours. Because I don't want anyone ever saying you rode my coattails. Because I believe in you and your vision and your capabilities." Debra felt tears prick her eyes again. "You really have been thinking about this. Since the moment I decided to ask you to marry me. I want you to have everything, Debra. Success on your own terms. Recognition for your talents. A career that fulfills you completely. What if I fail? You won't. But if you do, you'll learn and grow and try again. That's what entrepreneurs do." She kissed him, pouring all her love and gratitude into the gesture. "Thank you. For believing in me. Always." They flew back to Charleston on December 30th, 2024. When they landed, Williams kept her hand in his as they walked through the private terminal. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready." He posted a photo on social media that evening. The two of them on the mountain ridge, Debra's ring visible, his caption simple. She said yes. "Starting 2025 with the best news of my life." Within an hour, the post had thousands of likes and hundreds of comments. Some congratulatory. Some shocked. Some questioning. Williams's executive team called immediately. His head of HR scheduled a meeting for the following week to discuss policies and procedures. Industry publications requested interviews. Through it all, Williams kept his arm around Debra, solid and certain. On January 2, 2025, Debra submitted her resignation from Peterson Global Ventures effective February 1. She spent the next month transitioning her projects, training her replacement, and planning both a wedding and a business launch. Williams was beside her every step of the way. He introduced her to potential clients. He helped her draft her business plan. He celebrated every small victory and encouraged her through every doubt. Morgan Strategic Consulting officially launched on February 1, 2025. Debra's first client was a tech startup in Atlanta. Her second was Peterson Global Ventures, hired to develop their 5-year expansion strategy. Valentine's Day dawned clear and warm, unseasonably beautiful for February in Charleston. Debra stood in a suite at the sanctuary overlooking the harbor, wearing a simple white dress that made her feel like herself. Her mother stood beside her, adjusting her veil with tears in her eyes. "You look beautiful, baby." "Thanks, Mama." "Are you happy?" Debra thought about the question honestly. About Williams, who had changed his entire life to make room for her. About the business she was building. About the future stretching before them full of possibility. "I'm happier than I ever thought possible." The ceremony took place on the beach at sunset, just as Debra had imagined. 50 guests sat in white chairs decorated with flowers. The ocean whispered against the shore. The sky turned pink and gold. Williams stood at the altar in a navy suit, his eyes locked on Debra as she walked down the aisle on her mother's arm. When she reached him, he took her hands and smiled. Whispered. Ultra high-definition photorealistic thumbnail, magazine cover quality, bright vibrant lighting. Male character, extremely handsome white man, 37, absolutely stunning masculine beauty, perfectly symmetrical chiseled face, sharp defined jawline, piercing brilliant blue eyes with depth and soul, immaculately groomed dark brown hair styled perfectly with distinguished silver at temples, straight nose, full lips, flawless clear skin, tall athletic build, wearing crisp white designer dress shirt with top 2 buttons open showing strong collarbone, expensive tailored navy blue suit jacket. Confident yet warm smile showing perfect white teeth, GQ cover model level attractiveness, movie star handsome. Female character, breathtakingly gorgeous black woman, 35, absolute stunning beauty, flawless radiant glowing brown skin, perfect symmetrical face with high cheekbones, full sensual lips with warm genuine smile, large expressive warm brown eyes with natural sparkle, beautiful natural hair in voluminous bouncy curls cascading over shoulders, shoulder length, elegantly styled with side part, Wearing vibrant coral pink silk blouse that pops against her skin tone, delicate gold jewelry, red lipstick, professional glam makeup, supermodel beautiful. Positioning, both facing camera directly in forward position, standing very close together, her in front slightly to the right, him behind her left shoulder, his arm wrapped around her waist protectively, her hand resting on his hand, heads tilted toward each other intimately, both smiling warmly at camera, genuine joy and love in expressions, romantic couple pose, intimate but elegant. Background, luxury mountain cabin interior, floor-to-ceiling windows showing snowy mountain peaks and pine forest, modern elegant stone fireplace with roaring fire, expensive leather furniture, warm golden Christmas lights strung elegantly, decorated Christmas tree with white and gold ornaments visible, cozy sophisticated atmosphere, natural daylight flooding through windows. Lighting, extremely bright professional photography lighting, multiple light sources, golden hour natural light through windows, bright even illumination on both faces, no shadows, vibrant saturated colors, crystal clear sharp focus, studio quality lighting, warm inviting glow. Image quality, 8K ultra high definition, razor sharp focus, every detail crystal clear, professional color grading with rich vibrant tones, bright and luminous, zero blur anywhere. Commercial photography quality, 1920 by 1080 resolution, AR 16:9, V6, style RAW, Q2, S750.